Good afternoon. This is Tony Dattino. I am the founder and chairman of the USA Memory Championship, and we're just a little bit more than a week away from having our 29th, 24th USA Memory Championship on July 29th. So we're all set and ready to go. I think we've got all our prep work. We've had lots of meetings with our team members, and we're pretty well set and ready to go. I wanted to talk to you today about a terrific booklet that was put out by Massachusetts General Hospital called Mind, Mood, and Memory. They now have a monthly magazine that comes out. But a number of years ago, they put out a really terrific booklet that talked about mental aerobics, fit body and fit mind, mind records, what to avoid for impacting your memories, and also your diet. And I was reading through this, and it just reinforces the things that we've been talking about on my Live with Tonys over the last couple of years. And it starts with, so how do you get your brain to retain information or retain things that are important to you? And the very first tip that they started to is your first technique or skill must be to be motivated to want to remember something. Is it important to you? And so I always say, do you want to remember, which is the very first principle of trying to take information into your brain and store it so that you will retain it for use later. So the first thing the brain needs to ask itself is it important for me, and am I motivated enough to want to remember this? And so when you're engaged in a conversation with kids, or you're engaged in a conversation with people at work, or your family members or your loved ones, and people are having a conversation, so often I see somebody say something in the early part of the conversation, and somebody later said, hey, ask the question about the information that was given in the earlier part of the conversation, which then immediately says to you, not everyone in the dialogue was engaged at the commencement of the conversation or meeting, as it may be. And I always saw this in corporations or in hospital organizations where doctors and the nurses were talking to patients and their families. Was the patient and or the family member engaged and wanting to remember what the doctor or nurse or caregiver was trying to tell them? So the very, very first step that I find that's really important is you've got to be, and talk about being motivated, but you've got to be wanting to learn what it is or remember, retain that which is being discussed or talked about. Now, there are different techniques. Now you get to the next part of this. And well, is memory a skill? So the next part of this is, okay, I want to retain this. Are there skills that I can learn? Is that, I would say memory is a verb, meaning it's an active participation in a conversation or in a reading. If you're reading something, you want to remember it. It's active, meaning if you want to retain something into your memories, you need to be active in how you are encoding it and how you are placing it into your brain for retrieval, meaning it's like putting hooks on it in a way that says, when I want to recall this, the hook, I just reach in and pull that hook out, and bing, there's that information that I want. So to maintain the security, we need to stimulate it with focus of concentration. And it has different approaches and different skills that we can learn. So what this goes on to say is, here are some different activities that you might want to engage in and what you might want to do in terms of it. So here we go. You might want to play some games. You enjoy computer games. You may want to do Scrabble. Maybe it's chess. Charades, it's an interesting one. You may engage in solitaire, but you want to be in a game where you are concentrating, where you have to be in that moment and you have to be personally engaged in that moment. Now, emotions, number 3, your emotions come in very, very important. So the emotions that you talk about on how do I stay in the moment, how do I stay to where I retain information, talks about different levels of emotion and how stress, anxiety causes us to focus on 6 or 7 different things, and none of them may be connected to what you're trying to absorb in the particular moment of a conversation. Depression, stress, anxiety, and heightened emotions can cause forgetfulness. Even your surroundings can make remembering harder. Noise, confusion, and distractions make it difficult to commit things to memory. I want to read that again because I see this so often. Psychological factors. You ever stop and think about, okay, there are things that are going around about me in my environment that may cause me to not remember something or not retain certain levels of information. So you need to step back and say, okay, was I stressed in the moment that I was trying to listen to somebody? Did I have, when the doctor was talking, did I already think, I was halfway to the graveyard before I tried to listen to what he was telling me that I needed to do to avoid going to the graveyard? Am I anxious? Did I go into the appointment where I was already high-strung and I was building anxiety, which was short-circuiting any ability that I was going to absorb and retain the information that I was being given? Am I at a heightened level of emotion where, whether it's anxious or stress, there's no fighting chance that I'm going to be attentive? Remember what I said earlier. Is it important for me to remember this? And now how do I calm my emotions down? Some memories survive only partially when you remember a face, not the name that goes with it. So you're meeting someone, you're in this state of stress. It may be a doctor's assistant they want you to talk to. Maybe it's a business colleague and you're in a pressure to get something done on a time schedule. But now you're meeting someone and you say, well, geez, you know what? I met this person, but I don't remember their name. Well, the first thing you got to go is back to follow the 3 things I just talked to you about. The first thing, was it important for you to remember their name? Second of all, were you in the mode where you could stay focused? You stayed focused and you personally listened to what the person was telling you about who this person was and what they may be doing. And maybe as I give tips to people, I say, take a minute and pause and just repeat the name and even maybe spell it. Now you turn around and the third thing is you do is say, wait a minute, what emotional state was I in? Was I in a state where I was, yep, I wanted to remember this, my focus was there, I clearly paid attention and heard, but was I distracted with my emotions at some level? Was I some level of thought and thinking about something I was going to do tonight or something that somebody said to me during the day that was a bit upsetting? What you want to do is make memory stick with all, recognizing the impediments, but recognize that there are strategies that you can utilize to help do all of this. And let me read at least a little bit here from this particular. Train your brain to retain information. And so how do you train your brain to do this? Practice by working with a new person you meet. This is a simple process, simple technique. So you meet somebody for the first time, and you meet Joe Albany. And so, hey, Joe Albany, what you want to be thinking about is a simple tip this I recommend. Think about introducing Joe Albany to the next person that you're going to meet, or you want to go home and talk about him as you want to go home to your family and say, boy, I met this great person today. His name was Joe, and I think he's connected with Albany, New York. And so you've made a little bit of a link and a connection to it. But now you're focused. Now I want to remember this because I'm going to go home and share it with somebody else. And so when you get home tonight, say, let me tell you about Joe Albany. He's a great guy. Let me tell you a couple of interesting things about him. He does some of the similar things that we do for the kids and their hobbies and what they do and what stores he goes and shops in. And now you have an expansion of not just Joe Albany, but some of the things he does and similar that what you do with your own family. And it helps to bring those connections together. It helps to create what we call associations, links, and connections. And one of the myths that we have is we think the more we learn about a person, the harder it is for us to remember their name or whatever it is their information was. The myth is the more you learn about a person does not mean it's harder for you to remember the information you've learned about them. In fact, the more you learn about someone, the more associations, the more links, and the more connections you make, the easier it actually becomes to learn and remember and retain more of the information. I'm going to be using this book over the next few Live with Tonys. I have just found this to be incredibly helpful in what the Massachusetts General Hospital folks have put together in a really, really simple pamphlet with some really terrific ideas. And I'll just be sharing those with you as my future Live with Tonys are coming up. But in the middle of all that, we have July 29th coming up. We're not too far away from our 24th USA Memory Championship. And we've got a bunch of people coming from different parts of the country ready to compete for who's got the best memory. And we'll be posting the finalists. So the folks that are competing on the 29th will then give us the ability to sort out a dozen people that we will invite to Winter Park, Florida, to compete for the live event that we hold at Full Sail University, and find out who is the 24th USA Memory Champion.